So today's session is a workshop. So it needs work. Everybody needs to work during this session, 1 hour session. The topic is to facilitate data interpretation to empower assessment use. My name is Yao Z. I'm a faculty specialist in the Assessment and Curriculum Support Center at the University of Hawai'i at Mānoa. Before we start, let's do some housekeeping. First, please make sure you can access the workshop slides and materials in this Google folder that I generated. I'm going to put a link in the chat. Okay, and second, I need everybody to create your own handout by copying this handout template. So we're going to do some things that I ask you to do when you go back with faculty members. We're going to practice. I put the link of this handout in the chat, it will show up like, I'm sorry. So the handout looks like this. I think the link will say use template, and you just click that. Use template, it will show up like this, and you click on make a copy or something like that. And if you can, would you please save your handout in the folder that I just give it to you. If you couldn't find where the folder is, I understand the Google folder can be so confusing. That's no problem. Just by the end of the session, if you give me the link to your handout, I'd appreciate that. And your filled out handout will be the assessment evidence of this workshop, direct evidence of learning. All right. So appreciate everybody to use the handout to facilitate the learnings through this workshop. I'll give everybody a minute to try to figure out how to get to the handout. Okay. Again, I want to talk about the focus of today's session because some of the participants here, they're here to learn about how to do course assessment, how to use course assessment to improve pedagogy. That is very, very important. Yet today's session, we're focusing on how we as a program level or institutional level assessment coordinators can work with our faculty members and enhance or promote or motivate program level changes using the decisions made collaboratively with faculty members. So this is today's session's focus. We're focusing on using the program level learning assessment to effect change. So that's going to be today's session's focus. I have 3 major content to cover. First, we're going to briefly talk about common challenges like why faculty are not acting upon assessment results or just any assessment processes. Sometimes we don't even need to have the results to be able to act. But what are some of the common challenges in not acting? I provide 2 solutions. Rather, those are a package of the solutions. They are the 2 sides of the one coin. But one side is to presenting results with information to empower use. And I'm going to talk about 3 examples in detail, and you will be pretending to be the faculty members and go through one example through that immersive experience. The second solution I'm going to talk about is facilitating group decision-making through structured group facilitation strategies. So let's go in with challenges. In terms of common challenges in faculty not acting upon the results or in using results, here is something that I experience when I work with my faculty members on our campus. The first, faculty always complains lack of time, especially right now, University of Hawai'i. We have been in financial constraint for so long, but this semester is the first semester that hiring has been permitted. So everybody is hiring or everybody is dealing with staff shortage. They don't have time to do anything else. Another problem is that this is often the case is that when us as the assessment coordinators or when assessment processes going on, there is no designated time points on your assessment plan to schedule the meeting or schedule the occasion to discuss, interpret assessment results, and to talk about actions. So your entire assessment plan, you must have a dedicated time slot or timeline or action items there to allocate the time for assessment, interpretation, use of results. There's a poor presentation. Often I see the assessment report where they list, if they use a test, they list the results of every single test items. If they use 3 rubrics, they list all of the rubric and the dimension scores and rather than rubric scores. Let's say connecting rubric and the test scores with program learning outcomes. And often with a lot of decimal places, it's like huge text narratives. It's confusing, it has no focus. Third is lack of information. Oftentimes, faculty members, if they provide assessment information for you as an assessment coordinator, but they're just teaching their course, they do not know what's going on beside their course. When you give them the results, they do not know why the results are what they are. They don't know why the results came into being because they don't have any contextual information for them to have reasonable assumptions to explain the results. And of course, no information to use the results without facilitation. Even if the discussions were being held, conversations are happening, often do you know what kind of faculty meetings our faculty often experience? It's just roundabout discussion, open discussion that does not yield to any concrete actions. In those meetings, people just complain and then I hear the complaints over and over again. It happens every single meeting that leads to nothing. The last for me, it's not a major problem, but sometimes faculty do not know what's out there. They do not know what's the feasible options. What some practices that has been tried and true and used by other sister programs. So they feel not willing to act because they don't know some of the options out there. With that, I want to know what your thoughts are. This is the time I'm going to ask you to take a moment to reflect. This is the time that you're going to go to your assessment handout. Okay, take a moment to answer activity 1. If my screen did not show correctly, let me know. I think someone is telling me I'm not showing correctly. Answer question 1. So for you, what are the challenges? Check the ones you also experience and additional challenges, put it in here and then copy it in the chat. Okay, take a moment to work on your handout. Once you're done, if you have additional thoughts, put them in the chat. As well, copy, but always keep your handout because this is your own product. If you're willing to share your handout with me, either putting it in a folder or email the link afterwards, I will synthesize your everybody's thoughts and then send it out to all of you because I will be having your emails there. Okay, I hear one. Some faculty members reflexively criticize methods rather than believe results and act on them. Yes, we often have faculty members just have continuous critique of the weakness of the methods and doesn't move on from that point on. Yes, we experience that as well. Any other challenges? It ultimately turns into a complaining session. That's exactly what I was talking about. Exactly. Okay. Feel free to add more challenges, but right now, we're gonna move on. feel free to put in, because we're coming back to these challenges by the end of the session. If you have more challenges, as we go through the session, please put them in the chat and we can address them by the end of the session. Now, how to address these major challenges? I said I have two solutions. First is to present results with information to empower use. And the second is to facilitate the decision-making process through structured group facilitation strategies. Let's take a look at the first one. What are kind of informations that, think about yourself as a faculty members, you're not totally involved in the assessment process. And one day you're called upon in the meeting saying, here is the program learning outcome assessment results. We have ABC percentage of the students meeting expectations on this and that. What information would you want? Would you need for you to better understand what's happening at the program level? Okay, so here are what I use in my work. First is curriculum. Present the curriculum map so everybody understand the learning journey students is going through in terms of achieving outcome or not. And then syllabi, assignments, rubrics. So faculty members understand what are the learning experience in the course and what are the learning expectations. Student voice, if you have focus group, interview, questionnaire, open-ended responses, maybe this is time to bring in that student experiences. You may also want to invite students as part of the data interpretation process. Literature, if faculty members are not, they are the content experts, they're not teaching expert. Even say they teach biology, but does not mean that they have learned in the grad school how to teach. Therefore, maybe undergraduate research is their emphasis, but how to better teach undergraduate research. What does the literature say? That's something you can present. What are the learning theories of people gaining the skill in terms of undergraduate research, oral communication, critical thinking, so on and so forth. Other data, rates, if you have maybe retention rates, this is time you talk about students' experiences or our community member experiences, potential employers' responses to the survey that can be brought in. Other assessment. For example, if you have assessment, program learning outcome assessment often happen at the end point of the learning journey, but what about the beginning journey? What about some assessment using specific courses, right? Those information can be brought in. Of course, what peers have done in terms of try to improve a particular learning outcome. At University of Hawaii, at the undergraduate level, there's one outcome everybody is trying to work on. That is critical writing. How to write, and with critical reflections and analysis built in. So everybody is struggling with this, how to teach to critical write. But then there's discipline-specific methods. There's also generic methods. So this is a time that we can bring these peers who have tried something together and bring in their solutions to light. Let me give you 3 examples of how to present the information with contextual, present assessment results with contextualized information. So one of them is this oral communication assessment project that I led at our institution. This is institutional assessment project. So if you have access to this PowerPoint, you should be able to access our website. So everything, the methodologies, the resources we provide, results, and how we use the results are all there. But let's talk about data presentation. When we were working on the oral communication assessment, I thought, who in the university are the groups that has the most power to act upon the results that can have impact at scale? General education, oral communication focus group is the group that I identified because they review oral communication designation proposal, right? If you want your course to be designated with the oral communication focus, you have to go through, write a proposal, submit to the board review them, and then you can get your course designation. if they change the policy on what questions or what dimensions that the faculty must consider when submitting that proposal, they will effect change at large. So with that in mind, this is how I present. First, I present the results, overall results. 63% of the students met Mānoa's expectations on oral communication, but it's short of our benchmark because we expect 3/4 of the students meeting. So in general, we are not meeting our benchmark at the institutional level. So this is certainly an area for us to work on, right? We should not be complacent. Now, let's take a look at all of the criteria under oral communication. We find that students best achieved in terms of organization, but least achieved in terms of delivery. I observed these student presentations. When they present, they flick their hair, they put their hands in their pockets. So sometimes the delivery, you think it's easy, it's not. It's a habit that is very hard to break. So if we ever to provide a recommendation to faculty members or help with individual faculty members, we do need to point out that help students to practice, improve their delivery method. That would be places that they need to pay attention on. Okay, so we understand that oral communication we did not meet our benchmark. But in terms of all of the, if you are probably also accredited by WASC, so WASC has 5 core competencies. In terms of the assessment of all of these 5 core competencies, where is oral communication situated? Actually, it's the second highest achieved outcome. So we also don't have to despair. We don't have to there's hope for us and we can do better, right? We don't have to start from scratch. Now, let's understand where are learning opportunities. Do students have learning opportunities in terms of oral communication? Let's take a look at our NSSE data, National Student Survey of Student Engagement. We found that 62% of the students, they gave frequent presentations, and 67% of the respondents answered that believe the institution contributed to their speaking clearly and effectively, moderately, and very much. These results yield our institution have the NSSE score on these 2 items is about the peer. So obviously our students are getting the oral communication learning opportunities. Now, let's see what kind of learning opportunities make the most impact. My colleague have conducted a 5-year longitudinal study using student surveys. In this, the results shows these blue line are the amount of the learning that students reported when they enroll in oral communication courses. The yellow line represent the percentage of the students who reported moderate to very much amount of learning when they enroll in non-oral communication courses. We are comforted by the fact that almost, a third or more of the students still experience learning in oral communication, even though they did not enroll in oral communication courses. But most of the students experience learning in those OC designated courses. This particular results pointing to our general education focus board that if they make any policy changes, if they do anything at scale, it's gonna to impact our student at scale. So their role is very important at the institutional level. But when you look at our board members' composition, half of them are not teaching faculty members. They actually do not teach, let's say, oral communication. So, and they don't conduct research on oral communication. So they really do not know what is the best way to teach oral communication. So then me and my students, we conducted annotated bibliography. We also conducted literature synthesis, and we identified the best practice for oral communication pedagogy. And this is what we presented to the board members as well. So if this is what all the literature as well as literature synthesis are telling us, if you do this, the students' oral communication skill will improve, and those are effective. Then let's hear what the students say. These are the student focus group results that we collected long time ago, like at least 5 years ago, but they still bears value. Let's hear what students say. They want more time for practice, examples, and feedback. And look, what does the literature say? Students observe models, practice, feedback. So what students say and what the literature say correspond. This gives our oral OC board a lot of power to make suggestions to faculty members because they're equipped with the knowledge of the student, of what literature is suggested, best practices, as well as student voices. So this is what I mean when we say empower youth. You need to give faculty members enough information so they know they're making informed decisions. Through that discussion, unfortunately, the board members, they have high turnover, so I have to do this presentation, reminding people the decisions over and over again. But with that, we can see things do happen. So policy change, the OC focus proposal form, they ask faculty members to provide feedback. Say, please list your feedback strategies. Please list your scaffolding strategies. Please list your evaluation criteria. Here is what institution use to evaluate our communication. So the proposal form has changed in a way that is aligned with what we assess. We also, have those annotated bibliographies, signature assignments, and so on and so forth on both the Gen Ed and our office website. We offered a series of workshops, as you can see, and what is particularly useful and has the best feedback from faculty members are those assignment design, peer sharing activities called assignment charrette. Assignment design, assignment design, assignment design. So those kind of activities receive the best feedback. Now, let's go over how, like it's one person said, right? One of the challenges that people complain about the assessment methods. So I was only given 20 minutes to talk with the focus board. What I did is that I sent the data visualization and the project update, which is on our website, prior to the members so they can do their homework. I only used 5 minutes to present. And I acknowledge the limitations. I acknowledge the limitation of the methodology because we only have like 78 students out of 10,000 students on our campus, right? That's a huge limitation and so on and so forth. Yet I say, even with that, assessment provided us with the information, especially when we situate our assessment results with all the information that we're getting. So this reflects in part, it does reflect the reality that we do need to work on our communication. With that understanding, then I ask each individual to think about one action item per sticky notes, and people can write as many as possible. Then they post a sticky notes on the board for everybody to see. Then everybody voice one important action items they want the board to take in the end as summarize and send the summaries after the meeting. 20 minutes, a lot of things can happen. So don't despair. As long as you structure in a way that allows the discussion to happen and allows the synthesis of people's ideas, at least the most low-hanging fruit actions can be taken. The second example that I'm presenting, this is our hypothetical situation, is marketing's course embedded assessment. Marketing BA programs use 3 courses to collect assessment data. This material was developed by my colleague, Monica Stidberg. You don't have to read this, but this handout has 3 components. You can see when she proposed how we present the data, we present the curriculum map. We present the course description as well as the assignment grading policies there, the overall results and the disaggregated results. Here's the agenda. This is what I want to say. When we facilitate discussions of using assessment results, I request a minimally 60 minutes, but in my experience, 75 minutes are needed for in-depth discussion. So if you can, try to persuade your program chair or department chair to have 75 minutes of discussion. The discussion can go like this. you set the ground rules for discussion, tell people what is going to happen at the major chunks of time so people feel we are going somewhere. It's not just roundabout discussions. Tell them what is the end results. The end results is the prioritized actions to take. Then we can start with telling people what's going on, presentation, and then do allow time for Q&A. See, before I have 20 minutes, I don't have time for this. I just tell them the limitations of the assessments are. And then, so here is a time for faculty members to understand what those numbers mean. So this is a good time for faculty members who like never get involved in program assessment to understand, oh, what is going on here? Maybe they want to be, this is a time they may be interested in participating in the future. Now, this though is the meat of the meeting. In the bigger chunk of the meeting, we have guide faculties in thinking about possible reasons that lead to the results, explain the results, possible actions to take, right? You need to lead the discussions asking people what are the possible actions to take, or they may not talk about it. And then guide them in narrowing down the list so that it can be feasible. In the end, summarize. So let's take a look at some of the discussion questions. What might the student products have scored, or why they have scored below our expectations? What are the reasons? Given the activities, were there enough learning opportunities? If not, what actions can we take? Prioritization. So after people think about the last question, there are many ideas comes and trust the group can make their own decision. So the group usually have multiple action items. And this is one way if you're doing this using online Google Form or Google Doc, people can put in X. So just tell people, each of you can put 2X on 2 different items. Okay, and this is where you can see certain action items emerged as many people think they are the priority items. It's not showing on this handout, but I want to say this is also the moment. If you're dealing with inclusive issues in your department, especially among faculty members, you could make the last column into 2 columns. For example, you feel that adjunct faculty often are not given sufficient voice. You can make a column just for adjunct faculties. If there are, like quite a number of them, and then another column for other faculty members. And then you can see how the minority group among the faculty members agree or disagree with the majority group. And then you can pick one item that's important for your minority group and one item for the majority group, for the whole department to work on. It's another way to promote inclusiveness in the department. Okay, I'm gonna have everybody to do this exercise. I'm going to put the example 2 handout in the chat. After reading the handout, you have one task, activity two on your handout. You are going to answer this question. Why might the students' products have scored below our expectations on written communication? So everybody now should be able to access the example 2 handout. You only need to read from curriculum map here to here, the first chart. It is important for us to also disaggregate, to investigate minority students' performance, to investigate equity issues, but we don't have time today. Example 1 handout is not a handout, it's just a link, it's on the slide. Okay, so I'm going to give everybody You have 5 minutes to read from here or from the top to the chart, and you're going to answer one question on your handout, which is why my students' products have scored below our expected rate of communication. Put yourself in a faculty's shoes. You're not from marketing, but if you were, what conclusions may you draw from? I'm gonna pause the recording. All right, now looking at example 2, going back to my screen. What is very obvious problem, like students are not doing very well in when they assessed in written communication, especially when they assessed in 367. Anybody can unmute and just shout out. Or put in the chat.
There wasn't really any support given for the written assignment. And I guess there was some expectation given, but not a lot.
Yeah. And Jessica and Nicholas are exactly right? You see what happens before this course. Just one introductory, and we don't know what is happening. Is it in one course? Is it in multiple courses? We do not know. We do not know whether there's learning opportunities here. So of course, when students experience 367, and as you can see, the teacher, the professor gave students the marketing plan or presentation saying after the midterm. And we don't know whether students have any chance to receive feedback and so on. And you can also see in this course, 75% is exam, only 10% focus on this. So the students may not give it a lot of effort or thoughts. And I do not see there's a feedback or possibilities for improvement here. Okay, so that's definitely one of the reasons. Now I'm asking you, so think about you as faculty members. If you're just given this results without any accompanying information, how would you feel your power to make assumptions of what happened? And now that you have this information, you know, how comfortable you feel you can make some assumptions or analysis. Yeah, exactly. In the chat, written communication is expected skill, but it wasn't a lot of preparation for students to get there. Not at all. In some programs, they just have students write, you're going to write a capstone paper in 400 level course. This has happened once in political science. Students are not even required to go through other 200 level, 300 level courses before they take the capstone course. And the capstone course, they have to write a major policy analysis. Students are not doing very well. Okay, so I hope now you can feel, if you're standing in faculty's perspective, standing in their shoes, you can see when you're given more information, you feel more comfortable to make judgment about what has happened. Therefore, you may feel more comfortable of thinking about the possible solutions. You need to understand what may cause the results to happen, high or low, before you potentially can then, you know, you have to have the diagnosis before you give the prescription to treat any problems. So that is one way we are presenting the contextualized information. The third example is talk about improve ethical analysis. The background is in communication BA program. This is the session I facilitated. They have assessment results. in capstone course, each student must select one artifact for each program learning outcome, compose an e-portfolio, send it off to the advisory group to evaluate. The advisory group is composed of faculty members, potential employers to evaluate. It's a very robust system. They have the results, and they found the lowest achieved program learning outcome, that's what PLO stands for, is analyze the ethical dimensions of communication. So critical analysis of ethical issues, or you can call it that. We even have a data communication meeting with the faculty members and alumni there, trying to understand why students are not doing well in terms of ethical analysis. When the alumni is there, they said, we don't have assignments. We don't know which assignments that we need to pull to fulfill this program learning outcome. And the faculty is like, what? Ethical issues is everywhere in communication. Everything in communication is about ethics. Transparency is an ethical issue. Ethical professional standards, that's an ethical issue, so on. But students said, well, we were not told that those were ethical issues. So there's like a miscommunication, right? Students did not understand what artifacts is relevant to submit. So they did not submit the artifacts very well. That you can contribute to the assessment methods problem, but it definitely reflects the curriculum problem. So we presented the results, and this time to try to have faculty members, because you know what, when this happened before the pandemic. It's been like years since they think about the assessment. Now, after the pandemic, they have to submit assessment report. It's time to think about assessment. To help faculty to be on the same page, the department chair and we thought of this idea to send out a faculty survey, just briefly telling them the results. Okay, this is a percentage of the students meeting outcome A, B, C, D, E, right? That's it, very simple, straightforward. We asked faculty members to prioritize 2 program learning outcomes for the department to focus on improvement. So this is a survey, even though it feels like a survey, it's really just to put everybody's thoughts in one place. We're on the same thought plane here. In the beginning of the meeting, I always like to use an energizer, and my energizer is to think of a color that represents collaborative accomplishment. It's putting people's mindset in a positive mindset. Just at the beginning of this meeting, right? We're all superhumans. We can make the change. We can effect the change with the strategies learned. And then ground rules for discussion. Discussion needs to be respectful, on time, on point, so on. And then we review the survey results, which we identified that PLO 6, critical analysis of ethical issues, needs to be the focus. Then know that faculty do not always agree what ethical, or there's no shared understanding of what ethical dimensions are. So what we did, we first have to look at the rubric, see what the rubrics say ethical dimensions mean, and then think about what potential student performance skills products that can reflect the evidence of learning. After that, the faculty members read the course descriptions for every single required course in the curriculum. They reflected on the potential pedagogical activities and assignments that can be used in their own and other courses. So this is a moment they're thinking about holistically at the program level, what can potentially happen, where learning opportunities might occur, either in their course or other courses. Group share. Then from the big picture, then they focus on themselves. Think about the one thing they can do in their own course, and then share with peers in breakout rooms. Summarize next steps. So let's take a look at the handout. Handout example 3. Let me put that in the chat. Let me put that in the chat. You know what? But don't go there yourself yet. Let me just briefly explain. So this is just a modification of the real handouts that I disseminated during the 75-hour meeting. As you can see, it has to be 75 minutes. It's just because the discussion, if you want faculty to engage in thoughtful thinking and discussion, this is the amount of time it takes. You can see here, we have ground rules. We have very clear agenda where we list out the tasks that we must complete, and we'll have the next steps, the action items. So everybody understand that this is a very structured discussion. We're not talking about anything else other than this. So everybody needs to stay on point and on time. So first, faculty form a shared understanding of what is it when we talk about ethical dimensions of communication. When you read the rubrics, you can see not only it's about ethical principles. Have you ever thought it's actually about various points of views? I would have never thought of that without reading the rubric criteria. But that's what the faculty expected. This is a collaboratively developed rubric. Of course, the current faculty members may not remember because this was developed like 8 years ago, right? It's a good thing that we reviewed what we said we're going to assess. Then I asked faculty members again to think about that. What are the student products can we expect? What are the skills when we talk about critical ethical analysis? So if you ever are working with communication faculty members, you may come up with these 4 dimensions as well. It's like function as an ethical professional, ethical conduct in research, ethical considerations when they produce communication products themselves, and of course, critical ethical reflection. When there's news coming out, is it biased towards a certain group of people? Is it the racism? Is there like a cultural bias in any of the communication products that others produced? So these are the 4 dimensions emerged when we talk about, when we say dimensions, what dimensions, right? These are the dimensions. Then take a look at all the courses. Note that these 4 courses shaded, no one in the meeting are teaching these 4 courses because they're taught by graduate students. Can we do something still? Do we need to do something? Or is it necessary when we must do something? This is a moment for faculty members to reflect. So they read this, and then they have to complete a shared handout. They were given time to think about what can be done in each of these courses. As you can see, analysis of current issues, case study, reflection paper, discussion. So faculty know what needs to be done. Faculty have their answers. This is the moments that it truly shows like faculty are the experts. They know what needs to be done, given the opportunity for reflection and peer feedback. Although then we know that all of these products that faculty mentioned address the first criteria of the rubric, right? Ethical principles. But what about variety of perspectives? There, I gave one example of assignment instruction to address multiple perspectives. Think about those in power, those without voice and oppressed, community, government, operations, so on. Then individual reflect on what they can do in their own course, receive peer feedback. As a group, then we come up with, each faculty share, there are 7 of them. Each of them share either something they want to do for the program or something they want to do in their own course. In the end, what is amazing is that some faculty members, they took the leadership. They said, we want to develop signature assignments in those 4 foundation courses that are taught by graduate students and teach graduate students how to teach them, how to assign them. Excellent. Then individual faculty members decided to utilize particular assignment in their own courses. So this is just a kind of data interpretation facilitation meetings that my colleague and I facilitate. It always happens with very productive, meaningful results at the end. In fact, the faculty members participated in the meeting, they commented saying, Yao, this is the most productive meeting that our department ever had since the history of the department. Okay, I feel very happy to hear that, but but still it says something about if you structure your group discussion in a way that leads faculty's thought processes, help them to come to the action items, feel that it's informed, and have the peer support, the discussion always can be meaningful and productive. Again, coming back. Your turn. Go to your handout. Have a moment of reflection. What might you do? Other things you can think of. 1 minute. Okay. Moving on. Again, first solution, presenting results with contextualized information to empower users. Present information for them to help understand what leads to the results. What can they do? Here, I didn't talk about peer strategies, but I provided a link in the PowerPoint. If you click on the link, when you go back, you can see this is when we analyze the assessment report. We find out all the different ways that people have used assessment results, and we link them to the sample assessment report. So I hope this can be a resource for you, but I don't have time to talk about it today. Now, let's talk about facilitate group decision-making. In fact, I already covered this, right, in my examples. What is structured group facilitation? We use structured group discussion activities to form shared understanding or reach collaborative decisions based on inclusive input. 4 key strategies. Product-oriented. We always, in the beginning of the meeting, say by the end of the meeting, we expect a draft action plan, or we'll decide on one action to take, right? Whatever it is, tell them what you expect to happen in the end. So everybody feel the meeting is meaningful, is going somewhere. Inclusive voice. Provide opportunity for everybody to have input. You can elevate minorities' voices as the example that I gave in the presentation. We promote consensus. Consensus does not mean everybody agree. It just means everybody knows that we have opportunity for everybody's input, everybody's voices are valued, and we support the group decisions. Structured activities. Use carefully designed flow of activities to facilitate the decision-making, right? Brainstorming, narrow it down, prioritize, and then assign individuals to carry out those actions. Big, narrow down, assign specific time, person to carry it out. Use collaboratively editable handout templates so that everybody can work there, everybody can see what everybody else is writing. Use ground rules so the discussion can happen collegially, on time, on point. Be a facilitator that remains neutral. Sometimes if it's sensitive, allow anonymous input. I already talked about these facilitation strategies while I'm giving the examples. So now, again, I'm asking you to take a moment to think about which one struck out most for you, which one or ones you might want to use. You can highlight them on your handout or write new ones. We have 2 minutes left, and this is the end of my presentations pretty much. Let's take a look of how my 2 solutions can possibly address these challenges we're talking about. First, as an assessment coordinator, remind the program leaders to schedule time yen, faculty retreat, department meeting. Let's use minimally 60 minutes to discuss results or schedule that in your department meeting, in your assessment plan. Present simple assessment results, simply presented. Present the contextualized information and use structured discussion so that the discussions are not unproductive. And if needed, present the options. At least show the possibilities of ways to use results. Other challenges in terms of people just continue to always stay on the limitations of your methodologies. You admit the limitations first. And then say, even with the limitations, here is still the results definitely reflect some truth of the reality. So can we function on the base of that, right? So for me, I feel the two solutions I presented can address most, if not all, of these challenges, and they have been working very well for me and my colleagues. I welcome questions, and I also want to point out one thing. This is our website. You're welcome to explore. We have just enormous amount of resources when you take a look at the use of results. We have just a lot of examples. These kind of facilitation that, strategies, we do train them for our assessment leaders. And right now, the 2023 Assessment Leadership Institute is open. During the institute, we will have each of the participants facilitate how to move through each step of the assessment cycle, outcome development, curriculum map review, so on and so forth. Each person will practice facilitation. You will be given script, just to read the script or, make it your own. We will give you all the resources for you to need to be a trained facilitator of this decision-making process. That is all for my presentation. Thank you. And I can stay, I understand it's at the top of the hour. I can stay for questions, but I understand that you may want to go to the next session. So thank you everyone for attending my session.